So we are going to start today a new project that is called the campaign management. I will go through more details as we move further. As we go, I will explain more details what we are trying to do that. And it is very interesting project and it will go live after we are done with it. And it has very many new good features. And it's not important that we are doing this. It's important that you will learn something. You will learn something new. If similar kind of website come in your job, you can do that easily because a lot of basic things will be clear when we do this project. So don't think that, oh, what benefit you will get with this project. We'll do 6, 7 projects. Maybe it is not benefited to you now, but the small things which you will do, that will be benefited to you. So we need to do the baby steps. We need to complete register, login, logout, forgot password. We already completed the register and logout, and now I will do the login and forget password also with this project. And then we need to create the new campaign. I also need to change the user detail page or user registration page because right now we are taking limited information from the user while registering. But with this campaign management, I need few more data from the user before we allow him to register on our website. So we will modify this register page and add few more details in the register page. One of the things which we will do in campaign management is installation of the Redux, and we will do React Redux combination. And what exactly is the Redux? You will learn slowly, gradually, and then I will explain you in time by time what is the Redux and how to use the Redux. So today's first task is we will learn how to install the Redux and how to use the Redux in our application. This is, let me close all the windows. This is our code base. And this code base, every student has its own folder and they work in their own folder. I have my own folder. Inside my folder, I created a folder called as React. Inside React, I created a folder called as Master. And inside Master, I have installed this Parse server. And I have also installed the React application in the client folder. So everything related to React is inside the client folder. We have already created website 1 and website 2. Today we will create website 3. Everyone knows how to create website 3. So just follow the steps which I will do now in creating the website 3. So I'll go to the components folder, and if you don't have all this folder, you need to just give me the GitLab account, like I said, and then if you take this directory, how to take the directory, I will show you once you give me the username. If you take the directory, you will get all my files and folders, and you can see everything which I can see. So I will create a new folder. I will name it as website 0003 because this is our third website. We already created 2 websites in past week. Let's create one file inside this website 3. I will name it as home.jsx. It will be right now just a template. That's a simple home. And I will also create the readme.txt file in case I need to explain you something what to be done. I create this readme. In addition to that, I will go into the routings. I will open the routings 2 and rename it as routing 3. Since this is my third website, I will rename it as routing 3. Every website will get its own routing. So this is the basic structure to do the new website. These are the basic things we need to do. And make sure you point to website 3 here, because routing 2 points to website 2. Now this will point to website 3. Also layout should be pointed to layout 3, and we have not yet built the layout 3. We will build the layout 3 also now. So routing 3 is done. We just copied routing 2 to routing 3, change from 2 to 3, and also we change the website 2 to 3. Let's go to the layouts. I will create a new folder, layout 3. So whenever I will create a new website, these steps has to be followed. And I will copy this layout 2, and I will paste in the new file layout 3. Sorry, layout 3.jsx. So I created layout 3, which is similar to layout 2. I did not did any more change. Okay, so let me say layout 2, routing 3, routing 2. In the home.jsx, I will just mention number 3 so that I know that I am in the website 3. Now I want to right now, if I run this website, it will go to website 2. See, this is website 2 which we built. How can I change it to website 3? Can anyone put it in the chat? What should I do change so that it should go to website 3? App.js, right. So we have to go to app.js and just change the routing 2 to routing 3. Yeah, everyone is right. Once I change routing 3, now my website will point to website 3. So there is a problem in routing 3. I just mentioned routing layout 2. I have to change it to layout 3. So in the routing 3, wherever I have layout 2, I have to rename it to layout 3. Or best is I will just not put 3 or 2. I'll just name it layout and just rename it to layout. That way, next time I don't have to change it manually at every place. So now see, my website is pointing to home 3. That is the website 3. And I will give you now time to do that. Okay, so only one thing I will do, one more change, and then I will give you time to do this part. In the layout 3, see, it is pointing to SM. SM is kind of small area. If I show you the width, so it is very small area in the center. I don't want to show small area for this project. I want to increase it to extra large. Like we have t-shirt, extra large is very too big. Okay, for now, let's keep it large, LG. Okay, so this is fine for now. I may change to extra large in few days. So just make sure you also change it once I do it. Okay, so before I go further now to do the Redux part, we have to start the Redux part, and you need to remember the Redux part. I will ask you the Redux part now. Once I will explain you, you have to explain me back. So once we start the Redux part, just pay concentration how to do the Redux. So before we start the Redux part, just copy the website 3 home file, layout 3, routing 3, and change the app.js to point to routing 3. I'm committing my change. You can get it after I'm done. So those who are new, they have to talk to me personally. I will explain you personally what things you have to do so that you can come in the pace with others. Okay, because though this is a new project, but we have some groundwork done already in other folders. So we have to do that groundwork. Okay, I committed my code. So what change you have to do? You have to just create home.jsx, do it now, create routing 3, layout 3, change in the app. I will give you 2 minutes to do this. Once you're done, let me know, and then we'll go further. Okay, so I hope you have done it. If you have not done it, just you can grab the file from my folder. I have committed it. Okay, let me now tell you the first step in the. Okay, let's talk what to be done in the first step in the Redux. So to do the Redux, we need to install few libraries or few modules, and I will give you now those modules now. 1 second, let me get it. Okay, 1 second. I will just give you the. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I have to find the packages. Okay, I'll give you one by one. We will add one by one because I don't have the complete list. So we need to run the following command: npm install minus minus save, and now we have to add the packages. One of the packages is Redux. Next package is Redux logger. Next package is Redux thunk. I will give you all this package in the chat. Right now I'm just use copying it from my another library, another project, React Redux, and what else you need? This one. There. Okay. So everyone run this command, and I will check if there is any other package we need. Okay, just install this. By the time I will go through the thing. You since this is the React one, you need to go into the client folder only. Then only you have to install this. So go to client folder and run this command npm install. I will give this in the chat also, or if you have copied it, it's okay. So we will be using the Redux a lot in our application. That's the reason we need to install this thing. So just install this, and I will tell you any other package needed or no. Is it done? Is it done? Okay, done. So now let's try to install the Redux in our application. So my website 3 will be using the Redux. I will not use Redux for any other website now. So I will not install Redux for website 2 or website 1 or to all generic, all the websites. So right now I will only install the Redux for the website 3 because some website I may be using Redux, some website I may not be using the Redux. So we need to put the Redux where we need to use it. So what are the steps in putting the Redux is here to follow. Since I will be putting the Redux in website 3, I will create a specific folder for the Redux. I will name it as Redux. So all my files related to Redux will go inside this Redux folder. So first thing is you need to create a folder Redux in website 3. Okay, so this is the where, so everything will go inside the Redux folder. Now what files we need to create to make the use of Redux, and what is the Redux? I will explain these two things now in few minutes. So the first file which we need to create is called the store.js file. Okay, so this is the first file we need to create. Then we need to create one folder called as reducers. We need to call the folder called reducers. Then we need to create a folder called as actions. Okay, for you, since these terms are the new, so you may not understand what exactly each one will do, but in few minutes I will explain everything about this one. Now, generally what people do, they take the store.js and they use it in the index.js file. But if I use this store.js in the index.js file, then my Redux will be used in all the websites, website 1, 2, 3, because index.js is the common entry point for all the websites. So I cannot use in the index.js. If I use index.js, my Redux will be used in all the websites 1, 2, 3, which I don't want. I want only in the website number 3. So I will not use index.js to put my Redux application. So let's close the index.js. So we need to put the store.js in one file, or we need to call the store.js in one file where we want Redux to be implemented. Now which website we are using to install the Redux? It is website number 3. And after, let's see, where should we call the store.js file? Generally, I told you it is called in the index.js file, right? Generally, where it is called? Index.js. Have you created website 3 home.jsx? Have you created website 3 home.jsx? Rakesh, you got the error, right? So have you created website 3 home.jsx? Okay, now running. Okay, tell me, where should be the entry point of store.js? I told you, generally the entry point of store.js is index.js, but I cannot put store.js in index.js because it will be then used in all the websites, website 1, 2, and 3. So can I put store.js in the index.js? Yes or no? No. Right? Let's go to the app.js. Second point of entry is app.js. Let's see if we can put it here. Is it possible to put store.js here? So since it is wrapping around the routing, we can put it here, but problem will be if I put it here, tomorrow if I change it to 4 or 2, then that website will also try to use the store.js. So this is not the right place to put it store.js, because if I change the website that is routing to 2 or 1, then my Redux will be applied to that website also. I don't want that. I want only website 3 to be using my Redux application. So let's go to the routing part. Can I put store.js here inside the routing 3? Gateway no.
I think should be in the home. Yes.
If I put in the home.jsx, home.jsx is not called on all the pages of the website 3, because home.jsx is only the entry point. Tomorrow if we create another contact or about me, then that is not the home.jsx. If I put it store.js here, then if I have another component called as contact.jsx, then store will not be tied to that one. We need to put the common entry point where everything is used. So we have to see which component is used by every file. All the files are using which component. So app is using all the components, but we cannot put in app because app we can change the routing to 2 or 1 or 3. But if I go to routing 3, this is the next entry point, and every page or every component in website 3 will be using routing 3. So routing 3 is the best place to put the store.js. Okay?
Yes.
So in Redux, we need the store.js file. We need the reducers. In reducers, let's create the one reducer. We can create n number of reducers. Let's create one reducer called as Testreducer here. .js file. And in the actions, there will be multiple action files. Right now, I will create only the test action file to show you the effect of Redux. There will be many reducer files like Testreducer. I may have site reducer. I may have user reducer. I may have post reducer. I can create n number of reducers depending on what I want. Right now, consider we have only test reducer. So we also need one more file. That file is called the root reducer, called as root reducer. Now what root reducer do? Root reducer will call all the reducers and merge together in one. So I will not call test reducer separately or all other reducers separately. I will only call the root reducer, and root reducer will merge all the reducers together. So let's say if I have test 1 reducer, I have test 2 reducer. So all the reducers will be merged into the root reducer, and I will call the root reducer wherever I want to call. I will not call all these 3 separate. Right now, since I have one, I will use only one, but as soon as I go on adding it, I will be adding those in the root reducer. Now, what is the purpose of the Redux? Why we are using the Redux? Now, React is a single page application. That means once you open the website, you will not leave the website. You will not refresh the website. Everything will be there on that single page. So you will go from one page to another without refreshing the page. You will log out the user without refreshing the page. You will take the data without refreshing the page. You will show the data without refreshing the page. So everything has to be done without refreshing. So if you go to page 1, you will collect some data. Then you go to page 2. You will display some data from database. You will go to page 3. You will do some other thing. You will get more data from anywhere. So when you go from page 1 to page 2, page 3, you have lot of data. You have some data here, you have some data here, you have some data here. So all this data has to be in some variable. Okay, some variable, and that variable is called the state variable in Redux. and it will hold all the sub variables from the page 1, page 2, page 3. So all the variables which you will see will be saved in this state variable. So for example, if we have 3 test reducers, state variable will have three keys. For example, test reducer 1, test 2 reducer. So these are the 3 parts of the state variable, and test reducer will hold some variables. For example, variable x, y, and z. So these 3 variables are in the test reducer, and this test reducer is inside the state variable. There may be few more variables for the test 1 reducer, a, b, c. So what is the parent variable? It is a state variable. It is holding all the variables of this whole website. My website consists of this part. So variables are generally in these 3 files. So all the variables which are in my website will be under the state variable, and I can call that variable on any of my page. So if I have created one variable in page 1, but I want to use that variable in page 2, I can go and I can get it from the state variable. So this state variable is generic. Whole my website can access this state variable, and that is the Redux. This is only the theory part. Don't worry about theory part. Just want to make sure that you understand that we have only one state variable. One state variable. This will hold all the variables of the website. So if you have created a user on page 1, but you want to display the username on page 2, you can call the state variable and you can get the username which you can display to page 2. If you have collected some more information of the user on page 3, but you want to use it on different pages, then you can go to the state variable and can use that information. So that means, since this is a single page application, the data which is collected in page 1 can be accessed in page 2 or page 3 or page 5 or page 6. That means data is available to you on all the pages wherever you want. So you don't have to worry that, oh, I took the user in the user detail page. Now how will I get the user detail? Because everything is saved in the state, you can access that user information on any of the pages. That is the purpose of the Redux. Now do not worry about too much of this also. Do not worry about this theory which I explained you. Let's do it in action. First thing is we need to create one reducer. Okay, so let me create this. First thing is, let's create the file names. I have to create the store.js inside my Redux. I created store.js. It is empty right now. I don't want to fill it now. Next is I create a reducer folder inside the Redux. I am putting inside Redux folder to make it clean. So tomorrow I want to know that, okay, let's put this in the Redux. I will go in this folder and do it whatever I want. So I created the reducer folder inside the Redux. Let's create the actions folder. So I created 2 folders and 1 file, store.js. Inside reducer, I have to create new file called as the root reducer. Right now I'll not put anything inside this. Next I will create a test reducer. I will not create these 2 now, but time will come when I will create more reducers. Right now I'll create test reducer inside the reducers. Then we'll go to the actions folder. I will create this test action.js file. Now, if I ask you what is the structure of Redux, you have to say we have to create a store.js file, we have to create a folder reducers, we have to create a file root reducer.js, we have to create a file test reducer.js, we have to create a folder actions, we have to create the file test action.js. This is the first batch which we will be creating. In real world, I won't have Testreducer and test action. These are only to show you how the Redux works. But once you will know it, I will delete these two files. Okay, now I created all the files which I need. Now I will fill these files with some meaningful data so that our work get completed. Okay, so let's go to the first, create the testreducer.js file. Now many of things here are done. You may wonder why we are doing it, but it has to be done to make the Redux work. So just do the things which I tell you, and it will not give you any meaning now, but when you will try to use it, you will see the meaning of that file. So whenever we create a reducer, we need to create one initial state. So I'll say constant initial state. So this is the initial state which I will use in the Testreducer file. And in this initial state, I will put any variable. For example, I will put counter equal to 0. Let's consider this as the counter with the value of 0. Then I will create a function Testreducer. And this is the arrow function. And then I will export this function, export default Testreducer. Now this function will be getting two parameters, and who will provide these two parameters? Redux will provide. We don't have to provide those parameters. So the two parameters which it will get is, one is called the state, and another parameter which we will get, or another attributes which we will get, is action. So these two things will come by Redux, so you don't have to worry about it. And action has kind of structure of object. So I will just give the default value of object. And state will have the we should have provide some initial state. So this is the initial state. So for the state, we will provide initial state as a default value. So in the beginning of the page load, state will get this part, this curly bracket, which we will pass it here. So when I say what will be the state inside it, initially it will be nothing but this one. And after we done with the processing of this function, we need to return state. So always state has to be returned from this reducer. So before I go further, just create this folder structure and create this Testreducer file with this empty structure. I will give you a few minutes to do this one. Once you're done, then we'll go further. Root reducer, R-O-O-T-R, you can keep capital or small, it's up to you. I prefer root small with reducer. Okay, .js, let me rename it to small js. Sorry, it was typo. Okay, just create all this folder structure, and then in the Testreducer type this thing. Okay, so those who have done it's okay. Those who are not done, they can do it along with what I will explain. Then we need to finish this today. So either do it quickly or uh, just do after the class when I will commit the file. Now remember this reducer, test reducer will have one more thing here in between this test reducer and the state return state. That will be the switch case. Always the structure of this reducer is same whenever I will create it. And this switch case will check. Now how the action will be? Action is an object. And action will have object like this. The action will have the object like type, some type, and it will have payload. Payload will be some data. It can be object, numeric, or anything. It can be something like this. So the structure of action is like this. So we have to use the switch statement. We have to use switch statement to see what type it is. And if it is type 1, we will do something. If it is type 2, we will do something. If it is type 3, we will do something. Depending on what type you are sending, I will change my logic. So here in the switch statement, I will say action.type. So what kind of type you are sending it? I will put few of the case statements, what kind of type I am expecting here, but this type is user defined. You have to define this type. So one of the type is I will say, since this is the counter, let's say I want to increase the counter. So I will create a type called as increment. Okay, so one of the type I will create is increment depending on my logic. And then I will use the break statement here. Another type which I can use is decrement. And I will use the break here. And third will be the default one with the break here. So in the first case, I may pass the action.type as increment. If I pass the action.type increment, I have to increase the counter from 0 to 1 or 1 to 2 or 2 to 3. When I pass the action.type as decrement, then I want to change the counter from 0 to -1, -1 to -2. That is, I have to decrease the counter. So here I will put some logic to increase the counter or decrease the counter. Currently, I'm getting this object in the state variable. So I can say state is equal to, I have to take the current state. Current state is this one. So I will say dot 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 state, that is take this state, whatever it was there, and then increase the counter to 1. So I have to say counter is equal to, okay, let me explain you this part. I have to take this state variable. So state variable will be dot 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 state. Since this is the object, I will take this state in this format. Then I have to increment this counter. So I can say counter is equal to 1 or 2, whatever it's currently 0, I can say 1. But I want to take the dynamic value of the counter. So what is the current value? What is the variable which stores the current value of the counter? Can anyone tell me? What is the variable which stores the current value of the counter? Counter is there, but how can I access counter? How can I access this current counter? State.counter, because you see this initial value is coming in the state variable. So everything inside this is inside the state variable. So if I want to check this current counter value, I have to say state.counter. and then I have to add 1 to it so that my counter should update to one more. And this whole object I will reassign to state, this state. So when I take this and when I reassign to this state, it will override this with this new value. So previously counter was 0, so it will take the 0 plus 1 and the counter value will become 1, and this whole thing will be assigned to the state. That means this whole thing will be updated to this state. And when I return it, next time when we will commit, it will get the counter of value 1. Second time, when again I will call increment, state.counter has already become 1. Now I add one more, so state.counter will become 2, and I will assign whole thing to the state. So this value will be updated with the new value which I am passing it. So that way we are updating the current state to different value which we want. So just write down this line of the statement, switch statement with case 1, case 2 and default. I have done the case increment. You have to do the case decrement yourself and ping me in the chat what should be the statement for the decrement. Okay, and then type this whole thing till here. So put this switch one and let me know once you're done. Send me in private what you will put for decrement. Kate has already sent and it is correct. So everyone has to send what should be the part in the decrement. Okay, are you done by writing the switch statement? Everyone has given me this statement correct. So for the decrement, we have to take the state and which we have to equal it with the current state, and then counter should be state.counter minus 1, and everyone has given me the right answer for this one. Okay, so you have to do this part, switch part. There may be more case statement in the real world scenario. Right now this is a simple counter, so we have created only the 2 statements. And I will empty this part. So this completes the reducer part. Now let's go to action part and do some action. Since we have to pass this increment and decrement, these both will be passed in the actions folder, in the actions file, and I will show you that now. So let's go to the action file and we will create two functions, one for increment, one for decrement. So I'll say export constant, maybe I'll say increment function if fn equal to, I will make it as an arrow function, and I will create another function called as decrement function. So there are two functions, increment and decrement. When I call this increment function, it will send the message increment, and then automatically state will be updated with +1. And when I call the decrement function, it will send the message decrement and the state variable will be changed to -1. So let's see how it is done. You can pass parameter here if something is needed, but right now here we don't need parameter and we will write something like this. So inside this increment function, I have to write the return. I have to start with the async function, and it is an arrow function also. So we are returning a async function. This function can get two parameters, dispatch and the get state. So this async function can get two parameters, dispatch and get state. Now, since this is the async function, we always have to start with the try block and the catch block. Catch will get error. Okay, catch will get error, and we are in the try block. So in the try block, I will just pass the message. What message I want to pass? Increment. So how to pass the message? I have to call this dispatch function, and then it has the object inside it. And what is the object? Object will be type. What type I have to pass it? I have to pass the type of increment. So I'll put the same name, increment. Okay, that's it. Dispatch increment. Since we may get error also, I may create one more case of error. I will name it as error counter, for example. I can put anything and I will break it. Maybe in addition to counter, I will also create one variable called as error with initial null value, and when some error comes, I will update this with some meaningful name. So here I will say state equal to, first time you will feel little difficult, but I will repeat it again and again, then after a few days it will become very easy. I will pass the state, which is the current state, and now I have to update only the error part. I don't need to update this counter part because this is the error message. And here I will say error equal to, so now if you see action is sending action.type. In addition to action.type, we will also get another key value pair that is called action.payload, which will consist of some error message, and that error message I will assign to this error. Okay, so just consider this is the condition for error we missed previously. We added this error condition now. So whenever I call this dispatch, this increment function, I will put everything inside the try catch block, and when something good is happening, I will dispatch it with the type increment, and if by chance there is error, I will dispatch type equal to what type I want to dispatch? Error counter. So type will be error counter, and I need to pass the payload also. This payload will consist of the error message. And so I'll say payload equal to where is the error message? It is inside this error. So I'll say error dot message. So what will happen when something error is there? We pass the dispatch the error counter, that is this one. And in error counter we need to pass the payload also. Whereas here we don't need to pass the payload because it automatically appends one number to the current counter value. So when I pass the error counter, I will pass the payload also with the error dot message. So when I will pass this, it will go into the reducer. In this case, error counter, and we will get the error with whatever message I have passed it. So ultimately, when the state will return, this error will have some meaningful message which we can display on the page. Okay, so it will become clear. Just update this Testreducer with the error part, and then I will open the test action to show you the function. So just in 1 minute, finish this error part. Okay, so always remember these functions, whatever we create in the test action, has this kind of structure. So it will always return async with the dispatch and get state. This get state will give you the variable value, whatever is there in this state. But generally, this is not used mostly here, but if you want to use it, we can use it. Right now, I'm deleting this part. I don't want to use it right now, but I will show you some example how we use it in future. But right now, I'm not using it, so let's delete that part. So this is the structure you have to remember. In the catch, I dispatch it to some error message, and in the good condition I dispatch the increment. When I send error message, I put payload also with error equal to error dot message. Just write down this function in the test action and create a similar function in the decrement and show me what you have written here. Here it should call the decrement instead of the increment, but error should be same. So this function you write yourself as it is written here, similar to this, and send me in private what this function will consist of. So I'll give you 2 minutes to finish this function. Yes, every one of you who has sent me the solution for decrement is correct. So you know what we are trying to do. So just copy this part and just change this to decrement. So when we call this decrement function, it will call this part and we will see the value of counter is going down. And when someone will call the increment function, then we are basically calling this part and then we see this counter going up. So this is the test action. We created 2 functions and this is the Testreducer. We created different case statements. Generally every case statement should have appropriate action. Without action you cannot call this case statement. So how generally the things work? you have a component like home.js, or you have another component called test.jsx. From this component, you call a function defined in action file. Okay, like for example, you will call the function this one, increment. So you are in your component and you're calling one file from the actions file, for example, increment function. Now what this will do, this will send message because we are using the dispatch. It will dispatch or it will send the message with the type increment to the reducer. So it will send message to reducer. What reducer will do? Reducer will check the message and update the state appropriately like this one and return the state. So what reducer is doing? Check the message, update the state variable and return the state variable with updated value. So what we did, we created component, we call the function, it sends the message to the reducer, reducer based on the switch statement, update the state variable, and state variable is returned with the updated value. So when reducer is returning something with the updated value, this updated value again goes to this test.jsx. So now the updated state value will go to test.jsx, where you will display the new updated value. So let's walk through this one. I have one component test.jsx. Initially when the page will load, it will check what is the value of counter in the state. It is 0. So what test will do? Test.jsx will display counter to user. Will display counter variable to the user. And what is the value of it? Its value is 0 initially. Then we have a button. On clicking of button, we call the function. Which function we will call? We'll call this increment function defined in actions folder. And what it will do? Increment function will dispatch or send the message of increment to reducer. Now what reducer will do? Reducer will see whether increment is here. Yes, so call this part. If it is here, no, don't call this part. It is here, no, don't call this part. So since it is here, it will call this part. This part will update the state to one more plus and return it. So the new state which is there is with the counter with one more number. So send the message increment to the reducer. Now reducer will update the state variable counter to +1 since we call the increment. Now as soon as the state variable is updated to +1, this state variable will again go to the text.jsx. This state variable will again go to text.jsx and with updated value of 1. So user will see counter as 1. So this is what we are doing in the Redux. So we created the reducer and all reducers are in this format. We created the action and all the actions will be in this format. Now still this will not work because we have not completed the root reducer, we have not completed the store.js, and we have not done few things which are needed for this to work. Okay, so I will show you this practically tomorrow when I will complete the store.js and I complete the root reducer.js. And then we will create one file called as test.jsx, and we will see how the things will work in real action, real world. Is it clear? So we'll do that tomorrow. Okay. For today's this much only you have to remember. So just practice the reducer and practice the action. Let's talk about root reducer and store tomorrow. Yeah, what happened? Kate?
I forgot to send this decreasing action, so I just
Okay.
make up, ignore it. Never mind.
Okay, sure. Okay, no problem. So thank you very much. Any questions you can ask? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about our project. So we have started the campaign management, and we will be having lot of pages in this campaign management, and that's why we are using the Redux and React Redux in this application. And we need to update the user registration page because whenever I create the campaign and some user will join, I want some details of the user. What extra details I want to put in the user registration page is as follows. One thing which I want is complete birth date. Okay, it's not only the year, I will take the complete birth date, year, month and day. Second thing which I will take is gender. Right now I'm not taking gender I'm taking gender in another user details, but now I will not allow user to register without the gender. Third thing which I want to take is the user city. So because when user will join any campaign, the admin of the campaign wants to see which cities has which users. So for example, he will see these three users are there, but he want to know which city has the user, so that he should know that this city has so many people joined in his campaign. So he can appropriately take appropriate action. So tomorrow he's creating a campaign called as Biden 2024, but all the members are not from the USA. So he will know, though he has lot of users in the campaign, but all are useless because Biden 2024 means he should have all the users from USA. So that's the reason he will he has to know which user is from which city. So we'll take the user city. Previously, last year I was using the Google's geolocation to know where the user is located, which city. But problem with the Google is that Google is not allowed in China. It is blocked in China. Okay, since it is blocked in China, so either we can take user city manually, or we can have some API. We will find some API which will give us the user city, and I will find something and we will do that. Okay, and if it doesn't work, we will take it manually. But I have something working in my another project. So let's try to use that one and see how to get the user city. So these three things I need to add for my campaign to work properly. Okay, so let's first complete the Redux part and we'll go again then finishing everything all page by page. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow.